Every NBA player would be lauded and reprimanded just as often and regularly as much they earned in an ideal world. Unfortunately, because they've been there forever and the NBA public at large has never really appreciated their value, selected handfuls have seen their popularity decline. They're either being missed or the general consensus has shifted too much to the negative. Let's give these men some much-deserved love. Number 10. Kyle Anderson, Memphis Grizzlies. Since ordinary indications won't suffice, really appreciating Kyle Anderson necessitates a love for the subtleties. He has transformed deliberateness into an art form in the absence of traditional flair. On defense, he hangs and disrupts with his length and space. With his floor placement and vision, he leads quick breaks. To get around opponents, he takes detours to the hoop. Even his unplanned decisions after regaining possession of the ball appear deliberate. Anderson's flaws will always be front and forefront. He's more fascinating because of his increased three-point volume, but he still takes too many mid-ranged shots. Almost everything about him is in opposition to what people love most in modern times. That is, however, what makes Anderson so interesting? He's come up with new ways to fill the box score and influence games, and as a result, he's become one of NBA's most valuable and underappreciated players. Number 9. DeMar DeRozan, San Antonio Spurs. DeMar DeRozan's image is veering too far in the wrong direction. Mid-range heavy shot selections are typically frowned upon, and his ascent up the league's ranks is driven in large part by his team's lower peaks. Even if DeRozan has traded in some long twos for above-the-break threes this season, most of the general criticism is justified. It's a delicate existence living with his brand of outrage. It's also a limited existence in terms of the sort of talent that has to be surrounding him in order to optimize that offensive. However, there is a distinction to be made between a restricted player and one who is ineffective. DeRozan has the ability to lead a whole offense. Number 8. Miles Turner, Indiana Pacers. Miles Turner dwells in a strange universe. His defensive worth is acknowledged, but it fails in contrast to all he isn't accomplishing offensively. If we're being completely honest, this season won't be a catalyst for change. Turner is shooting more threes, but he's only making 28.2% of them. His room for improvement is limited. The Indiana Pacers have never been more distant from him, and the need of Domantas Sabonis at 5 makes it tough to guarantee him more than 30 minutes of a game, if even that. Turner, on the other hand, cannot be assessed merely on the basis of his arsenal's faults. His three-point shooting opens up the half-court and allows him to team up with another big. But he's also most known for being a formidable rim protector, and he's a strong contender for Defensive Player of the Year. Number 7. Kyle Lowry, Toronto Raptors. Kyle Lowry's absence of gratitude is a recurring issue that appears to stem from a basic misunderstanding. His stardom is not based on any one aspect of his game. It's the sum total of his abilities. He is what the numbers say he is. 19.1 points and 7.3 assists per game, league average-ish three-point shooting, charge taker extraordinaire, but his worth is greater than the sum of his parts. There aren't many guys his size who are as physical on and off the field. From the opponent's perspective, his defense may appear gimmicky, but he is an in-your-jersey pest. Point guards aren't meant to be such good screeners, especially when they are 34 years old and 6 feet. He's someone who can both drive an offense and function as a co-star or low-volume complement. Number 6. Terry Rozier, Charlotte Hornets. Terry Rozier is still being punished for his decision to join the Charlotte Hornets in the first place. He was not only coming off a poor year with the Boston Celtics, but he had also signed and dealt for the franchise cornerstone Kemba Walker and had been compensated in the process. Was he, however, overpaid? Terry Rozier faces a 3-year contract for $56.7 million in 2018-19. That player is not a member of the Hornets. Through his first season and a half, their version has averaged 18.3 points and 3.9 assists while hitting 41.2% of his triples. He also deserves more credit for his on-ball defense. Rozier's actions should have triggered a re-evaluation of his position in the league. It hasn't happened yet, but make no mistake, he isn't overpaid. He's simply excellent. Number 5. Larry Nance Jr., Cleveland Cavaliers. Larry Nance Jr.'s flexibility is deserving of further attention. He's Mr. Does Everything for the Cleveland Cavaliers, a job for which he's uniquely qualified but isn't yet well recognized. Do you want to put in some time on the wing? Sure, you'll be able to accomplish it. Do you want to hit a few baby jumpers? Why not? Close outs to be attacked, shake the defenders in the vicinity of the goal, make second-by-second passes. There are check marks all over the place. To call Nance a jack of all crafts is an understatement, given the breadth of his abilities. His skill set is deserving of a lot more public recognition. Number 4. Marcus Smart, Boston Celtics. It takes a strong stomach to go through the Marcus Smart experience. I want to be able to tackle anything in life with the same confidence with which he launches heat checks when he isn't on a hot streak. Throughout it all, he has remained a very upbeat player. Smart's offensive lows will never be able to match his defensive peaks. Although he's just 6'3", he is essentially positionless, with the majority of his duties being the toughest backcourt coverage. The Boston Celtics do not hesitate to throw him against larger wings and fringe bigs on occasion. Smart's mix of power, toughness, and craft is unmatched by any other guard. For the time being, he is easily one of the league's most underrated players, despite the fact that he is one of the greatest players in the league. Number 3. Cameron Johnson, Phoenix Suns. Cameron Johnson embodies the how it started versus how it's going cliché to the T. How did it all begin? In 2019, the Phoenix Suns selected him 11th overall, well to the astonishment of almost everyone, especially his UNC partner Kobe White. It was a long shot, it was a blunder, but Johnson is now one of the finest and most influential players from his draft class, and he is a solid rotation player for a very successful Western Conference club. It's not only his stationary shooting, however. He's buried 38.7% of his shots up triples, but he's also served as a specialist. His defense will never be his strong suit, but he's faster than he's given credit for when moving laterally and can compete fiercely around the rim. Number 2. Richaun Holmes, Sacramento Kings. Richaun Holmes doesn't even appear to be well liked by his teammates. The Kings' packed front line, his own foul issues, and perhaps a bit more Hassan Whiteside than required have all contributed to his minutes decreasing slightly. Nonetheless, Holmes is essential to the greatest Sacramentos. If the most useful offensive bigs are floor spacing 5, he's the next big thing. He and the guards have a fantastic pick and roll connection, and he has a nice floater that he employs frequently. On the offensive glass, just a few players work as hard or as efficiently. Holmes' profile might rise if he was to anchor a top-notch defense, but he isn't that person. At the very least, he's a capable rim protector, which is helpful in and off it given his dominance on the other end. Number 1. Collin Sexton, Cleveland Cavaliers. Sexton has a lot of potential, and he's continuing where he left off previous year. He won't be averaging over 25 points per game and draining 50% of his 2s and 3s indefinitely, but the core of his attack is sustainable. He's a lethal shooter who's just getting into his stride off the dribble. It's officially dishonest to focus on Sexton's assist tallies. He's hardly a point guard by any stretch of the imagination. He's passing a 44% of his drives, up from 32.4%, and making sharper reads overall. It's still unclear if the Cavs have an all-star cornerstone on their hands. However, their building block pool isn't quite as depleted as it was last season. And among the main reasons for this, obviously, our very own Sexton. That's it for today's video. Thank you for watching this video till the end, and we will meet you in the next one.